I was browsing the internet the other day and I came across a famous psychologist who said in passing that he didn't think that self-esteem existed. And I thought it's a bit of an odd thing to say because I have never yet met a client, a patient, who I have treated who did not have a self-esteem problem. Now, self-esteem, right? Esteem, how you value yourself, what you think about yourself, the beliefs that you have, and how you actually physically see yourself and how you perceive yourself interacting with the world. So self-esteem, it can be a broad term, but generally it means how you value yourself in the context of your life. And I have never yet come across anyone who had a mental health problem that did not have a distortion in their self-image or their self-esteem. But you know what you see every day you tend to ignore. And so I wondered, how could we refresh the idea of mental health as being a problem that needs to be dealt with, needs to be tackled? And I thought, well, okay, I'll bring you to the Oracle car park. Now, the Oracle car park is a car park of 1,611 spaces. Suppose we wanted to give everyone who had a mental health problem today a parking space in the Oracle car park. Well, okay, we just don't have enough spaces in the Oracle car park. Okay, so how many additional Oracle car parks do we need to give everyone with a mental health problem a car parking space today? Turns out we need 7,093 additional Oracle car parks. 7,093 additional Oracle car parks. That's quite a lot of car parks. Suppose we said something a little bit different. Suppose we said, how many people who are taking a psychiatric medication, how many additional Oracle car parks do they need? They need 7,138 additional Oracle car parks. Okay, so that's today. That's how many car parks we need today for those people who struggle with a mental health problem. And these data are from the government. I'm changing my position because I'm changing the metric. Instead of thinking about how many car parking spaces do we need today, if we're going to think about treatment, we need to change it completely. We need to go like an order of magnitude different. How many car parking spaces or how many additional car parks do we need a year? Okay, so if you have a mental health problem, the normal thing to do would be to go through the NHS talking therapy service. Okay, now we're talking about additional car parks per year. Of all the people who are referred to the talking therapy service, how many additional Oracle car parks per year do we need? We need 906 additional car parks per year. Okay, that accounts for approximately like 1.46 million people. All right, given that we need 906 car parks to accommodate the people who are referred, how many people actually go on to receive treatment? 633 additional Oracle car parks for people who go on to receive treatment. Okay, the number's starting to get a bit more manageable. How many car parks do we need for people who actually complete treatment? We only need 408 car parks for people who are completing treatment. But what about people who finish treatment? 210 additional Oracle car parks for the 338,000 people who actually finished treatment, which is approximately 2.95% of the total problem of mental health in the UK. So let's call it 3% to be magnanimous. 3% of people who actually have a mental health problem actually get treated and cured, they achieve an outcome which is acceptable to them in a year. 210 additional Oracle car parks. That's not very many at all. But given that we're talking about car parks, how long would you be prepared to wait for a car parking space? Well, a car parking space in one of these additional car parks, let's say, is basically how long you'd wait for your first treatment session. Well, if you're lucky, 4 days, and if you're unlucky, 86 days. Now that's quite a long time to wait for a car parking space. But when I do first sessions with clients, it's an assessment, it's getting to know you, it's helping them to understand their problem, me to understand their problem. We're kind of really assessing where we're at and thinking about what we can do. It's the second session we really start to crack on and do useful things. Well, how long are you prepared to wait for a car parking space for your second session? If you're fortunate, 30 days. If you're unfortunate, 182 days. 6 months, I think. So, is that acceptable that you wait 6 months for a car parking space? When I look at the Oracle car park, you know, people have to wait 5-10 minutes to get really quite shirty. So, to wait 6 months for something as important as help for your mental health would seem to be, you know, it's unconscionable, really. So rather than self-esteem being something that doesn't exist, I think self-esteem, how you value yourself, your self-image, what you believe about yourself are incredibly important. I've said that everyone potentially has a distorted self-image, okay? But it's whether it's functional or not, it's whether it works for you. And the thing about mental health problems is your self-image is not functioning as it could for you. So, given that the NHS is unlikely to give you much help, what can you do about it? Because, in fairness, nobody cares more about your mental health, or nobody should care more about your mental health than you do. So what can you do about it? Well, I have a suggestion. In fact, I've got a few suggestions. The first one is actually to be brave and to think about what it is about your self-image that's unhelpful to you. So let's have a think about it. What is it that you believe about yourself that's so damaging? How do you see yourself in a way that is negative and inhibits your life chances as opposed to promotes your life chances? How do you physically think you look? There's been some interesting research to show that self-esteem is massively correlated with what you think you look like. People who feel strong and have good self-esteem tend to think of themselves as taller, and people who have poor self-esteem tend to think of themselves as shorter. People with low self-esteem tend to magnify the distortions in their body. They distort their body image in a sense to align with what they think people with poor self-esteem look like, and people with good self-esteem modify their self-image along the lines of what they think people with good self-esteem look like. So what you believe about yourself, how you physically see yourself, how you value yourself is incredibly flexible. Now I'm suggesting to you that you don't need to change yourself at all. You just need to change your self-image, your self-esteem, how you value yourself, so that you're no longer distorting it in the wrong way. I don't mind if you distort it in a more positive way, because it's going to be distorted anyway. But if it's useful to you, that's the thing. Okay, so pick one thing from your self-image. Have a think about it. Allow yourself to sort of reflect on it. What is a thing that you believe about yourself, or you see about yourself, you say about yourself, you enact about yourself that's unhelpful to you? Once you've identified it, I mean, be serious and say to yourself, okay, is this thing that I believe about myself, I see about myself, is it an asset or a liability? Decide if it's an asset or a liability, right? A binary choice, yes or no, asset, liability. If you decide that it's a liability, focus on it, think about it, and start to change what you feel, what you think, and how you do, determined by that element of your self-image. Because your self-image, in essence, is the roadmap of how you expect the world to treat you and how you expect to be treated in the world. So if you manage your self-image just a little bit better, you'll have a different experience, and you won't have to change yourself one jot. So what we're doing is, really, we're taking ownership of your experience. Now, you're going to have an experience whether you take ownership over it or not. And what we see every day gets ignored. So your self-image just gets worked around. Your self-esteem problems, if you have them, just gets worked around. How you value yourself just gets worked around, except it flavors and colors the life that you have. You are not going to get, chances are, you're not going to get very much help from the NHS talking therapy service. It's up to you to manage your mental health. It's entirely doable, it just requires some focus and some effort. Let's start with your self-image. Pick a thing, decide if it's useful to you, and if it's not, let's think about changing it. Changing the perception of it, not changing you. I hope you find this interesting. Please subscribe, please like, please share. And check out the Anxiety Wizard program if you want to have a comprehensive program of changing your self-image so that things work a lot better for you, particularly if you struggle with panic, anxiety, depression, and stress. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen.